We
Don't say
are
fuck.
live. We're
Don't
ready
say
to
fuck.
start. Let's do it.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond
Win.
at night in the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was, 30,000 feet on my way back to the boat, on the way back to the tanker. And as the maintenance officer, we had punched off about 6 external tanks because we couldn't get fuel to transfer. I told my wingman to stay on the tanker. I dropped back and I fixed the problem.
Nice. And that is how all great aviation tales begin. Repeat here with my cohort who's out in the Western time zone today. So he's starting early. Where are you at, Fig?
Well, I'm in Goodyear. Actually, I'm in Litchfield, Arizona, just
Okay.
outside of Phoenix. And I am really happy to introduce our guest today, Sam. Thank you, Sam, for joining us, and welcome.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. So that sounds terrifying. Not getting fuel to transfer, punching off all your stores. How far were you from the boat?
That was usually about hour out from the boat.
Ooh.
Oy.
All right.
Okay,
Well, you didn't start your
we got to
aviation.
come back to that. we
Yeah,
gotta
you
come
didn't
back
start
to
your
that.
aviation career there. Started it in Arkansas, as I recall.
Yeah, well, first
Yeah,
of all,
that's
how did you
Yeah.
how did you end up here to where you are? How did you get interested in aviation? Really?
I got interested in aviation when I was standing out in the woods at the basic school as a ground contract. So I was looking at being a comm officer or an infantry guy or something like that. And I'd been in the woods for 3 or 4 days. So, ticks, bugs, and snakes. I was covered in sweat and filth and grime. And I was looking around at some of the things I had going on. And all of a sudden, this god-awful noise came overhead. And it was an A6 intruder. It was kind of inverted. I looked up in the cockpit and I said, "What is that?" And one of my buddies told, "Well, those were Marines supporting our exercise out here." And I said, "The Marines have airplanes?" And I was like, "Holy cow." And where I'm from, kind of the mini Appalachian Ozark Mountains in Arkansas, and I got enough woods time. And I said, "I want to do that."
So let me just get this straight, just so I didn't miss anything. You were already you were at the basic school at the time, or officer
at the
candidate
basic-
school?
I was
So
at the
you were
basic school.
He's already a second lieutenant.
Basic school, second lieutenant, and you were unaware that the Marine Corps had airplanes.
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh!
Sounds like someone's OSO needs a adverse fitness report. Just saying.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
helping you at all.
All right, so you came into this thing, just so we're clean on this. You came into this thing zero time, zero pilot time, not even anticipating that aviation was going to be your career.
No, not at all. I went in saying, "Oh, I'll do my 3 or 4 years, serve my country, get some travel experience, some excitement, and then I'll go back home and take over the family business or do something else."
Okay. So that's not, you are atypical of the,
Yeah.
typically you are atypical of the guys we interview. Most guys we interview are like, I wanted to be a pilot since, as long as I can remember, blah, 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 went to an air show, something like that, right? So this is going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
But
so
in
from
the pre-show chat, though, I found out his dad was an Army aviator in Vietnam.
Yeah, so I was
In the
telling
60s,
Ricky,
so, yeah.
my father was a Cobra pilot in the late 60s. I think he got out before the 70s started, but so I did see a few pictures of him around an airplane. But for those of you who didn't grow up in the 70s or 80s, that was just like something buried in a book that you flip through every once in a while. And
Right.
so I didn't see bases. I didn't see airplanes taking off or anything. I was on the Buffalo National River in northern Arkansas, myself and some squirrels and a couple of feral hogs. That was about it.
All right, so you're standing there at the basic school in the woods. This A6 comes over, obviously getting ready to do some kind of low-level delivery for the lieutenants at some other impact area. And so from that point on, let's talk about how, because I know personally, but let's talk about how this progressed, because you ended up doing something different right out of the gate.
Well, at first I went and there were no pickup aviation contracts at the basic school, and something was let on like maybe they're going to open some NFO contracts because the F-18D was going to need something like that. And my class there in 1990 all of a sudden had 5 of them. I went and told my platoon commander I want to do that, and he laughed in my face because
He said, "Yeah, right."
No, yeah, he completely laughed in my face because those weren't gonna be a quality spread. Those were gonna be the top guys were gonna pick that. So I had to work my ass off at the basic school to finish at the top of the class to get a slot.
How about that?
This one corporal was watching me shoot, and he disqualified on the 500-yard range with the M16 during qual day. And he discounted like 2 of my shots. And I thought I was going to lose my mind, but I kept my cool, kept going because I knew every point was going to count. And
right?
I am not an endurance runner. I hate it. I'm a quick twitch guy. So I pretty much blew my lungs out to run an 18:05 or something like that in the PFT.
Oof. Right.
And I never sniffed 21 again the rest of my life. So,
All right.
Oh man! So what he's talking about? We had the PFT includes a 3-mile run, and you max it out at 18 minutes, and I think failure was like 28 minutes or something like that. But yeah.
So we have something in common there, Sam. You know, my fastest time ever was 18:06, and had I known I was that close, I probably could have eked out a sub 18, but I had no idea. One time ever, and that was at OCS.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm a tailback. I'm not a long distance runner by any means whatsoever. So that hurt. So I somehow miracled my way to the top of that class, and I got the NFO contract and made my way down to training. And it was pretty chaotic at that time because it seemed like all of a sudden there were a reduction in forces going on. There was these merges in airplanes, and so it was kind of chaotic. And so I had a period of time to wait on training. And while I was waiting on training, I saved every penny I could, and I went over and got my private pilot's license right there because I was interested in it. So I started kind of a dual track NFO and civilian flying.
So you did that while you were waiting to start NFO training down in Pensacola?
That's right.
Is that no shit?
I think it was $17 an hour for a wet 152, and then you paid the instructor who was just building time. I don't know, bought him lunch or something. It was great.
Yeah. Nice. It's a little more than that today. I got a daughter who's in flight school, and it's a little more than 17 an hour, I can assure you.
I have a son I'm paying for to get his instruments right now. So
there you go.
That's the fireman. So you got your PPL whilst you were waiting to go to NFO school. Look at you. Right. That's shit hot right there. That's some forethought.
Right. Really
well,
is.
I don't know. I just all of a sudden became interested in aviation, and I figured I might as well do it. And I kind of knew my personality because I wasn't I'm from a small place. I wasn't the big man on campus, but I was a good competitor in athletics, mediocre in academics, but I was kind of a leader. And so I was getting kind of a hint that the NFO track eventually was not going to work out for me. i.e., to stay a full career.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have role models yet, like General Nyland, which we had shortly thereafter, who went to the top of the Marine Corps.
Spider Nyland.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one. I'm not a great American guy, but that guy qualifies to get that nomenclature from me.
Was he the CEO of Matzig when you were at NFO school?
He was. So
right?
I'm one of a cast of thousands there in 1990, 1991.
Yeah.
Probably 91, 92 when he was there. But what amazed me about him was about 5 years later, I'm sitting out at CAX in 29 Palms. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm the watch officer sitting at a desk in a dark tent. The lights bad. And Spider Nyland walks in the tent at that time, and he calls me by my first and last name and asks me how I'm doing. Unbelievable memory from that guy.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Those guys always amaze me. Don't see you for
That's
5
amazing.
years. They ask you by your name, how your kids are doing by name, that kind of stuff. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
gift.
I
It
have
really
no idea
is.
what I had for breakfast.
Right?
So then when I was at NFO school, the last few guys going to be an A6BN were happening. So really at about that time, there was either the EA6B or the start of the F-18. And to go be an EA6B NFO, you had to go to Corey Station and do some 3-month school that was very technical, super difficult. And I don't know if I didn't make the cut or I finished well enough to go to the F-18 because I wanted the F-18.
Okay.
Spider.
That's not Spider.
That's not Spider Nyland. He's a good-looking Marine, but that's not Spider.
Yeah.
Sticks is in the background going, well, I gotta give it a shot.
Thought he had him.
So so the prospect of being a whizzo, or not a whizzo, what ECMO, like that's what they call those the family truckster guys, right?
Electronic countermeasures officer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, very smart dudes, extremely critical mission. But I thought the F-18 mission would have been more for me. So that's the track I wanted to choose. And that's where I went.
So what does that look like? How do you get going down that track? I mean, because you all start off in the same thing, right? You all NFO start off the same training, and then how do you do that? What does that mean, going down the different track?
Well, because it was confusing at that time, and I'm sure the current military faces these challenges as they're moving platforms around and doing everything, is they didn't have a program for the F-18 guys. So actually, I just remember this. We got our soft wings as an NFO. So I'm sure your listeners know what soft wings are and hard wings. So
let's talk about that real quick.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Good point. Yeah.
What is a soft wing?
Well, soft wings is like the academic and the flying portion of the syllabus is complete. You have completed the syllabus. You are qualified, but you're not technically ordained yet. You haven't gone through the ceremony. You don't have the certificate. So you get done with that flight. I forget where it is. If you come back to the ready room or it's at the plane or whatever, but your instructor gives you your wings, you slap them on. Now you got a set of soft wings to wear on your flight suit. And it's a big deal.
Yeah, man.
So there was a group of us guys who got our soft wings, and then they go, "Oh no, you're not done." They took our soft wings back.
Oh,
They took our soft wings back, and they took us and stuck us in the F-14 Rio program. So we had to do that for like, I don't know how many months it was, but all of a sudden we're learning how to be a radar intercept officer, flying T-39 Saberliners in the back and doing raw intercepts. And math is not my strong point, but you're doing trigonometry at 500-600 knots closure. And
yeah.
it was a challenge.
Brutal.
So that was just a hip, like shoot off the hip. Okay, now we're going to send you guys through this, because they really didn't know what to do with you at that point, right?
No,
it's a new,
no, not at that time.
The F-18 Delta was a new platform for the Marine Corps.
Yeah, it was. And I think from my perspective, the F-18D was as most of you guys know, it was developed as a single-seat fighter attack aircraft. The
Right.
Marine Corps liked it so much, they decided to integrate it as a multi-use platform. So, like, for instance, my first squadron that I joined was VMFA AW 224 on the East Coast. It was going from
That was out of Cherry
A6
Point, right? Or were they down at
Yeah.
Beaufort by then? Okay.
Yeah, no, that was it. Used to
They
be
were on their way.
an A6 squadron, right? And that when
That's
they
right.
stood up as deltas. Yeah.
That's right. So they kept they went from VMA AW 224 to VMFA AW 224 and incorporated those two seaters for that all-weather mission, and other uses like forward air control and things like that. So that's what they were justifying the second man in the back cockpit.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. All right, so you got a little F-14 Rio training, and then did they? What did the rest of the syllabus look like?
Well, then they completed us, gave us both sets of wings, and I went off to the West Coast. At the time, it was VMFAT 101, and did the fleet transition syllabus. Did that that was when El Toro was still going. So
Okay.
El Toro was great. While I was stationed out there, I was able to pick up my wife of 30 years this year, and then I took her with me. We went out to Beaufort and joined that first squadron, VMFA 224, which I have to tell you, we just had a reunion for that squadron this year. And for your listeners, I hadn't seen some of these guys in 25 years. It was like, 5 or 6 brothers getting together, and it was absolutely amazing. We just picked up right where we left off. It was
that awesome?
It was really, really a cool
Fantastic.
thing.
Was that you said that was last month?
It was this spring
Okay.
that we got together. That squadron was transitioning from the F-18 now to the F-35, so it was kind of
Yeah.
a dual event, like a 30-year celebration of the F-18 and the guys that started it. So that was a very eclectic bunch that started that squadron when it transitioned from Cherry Point down to Beaufort, because at that time in the military, they were managing personnel to bring in. So the squadron had like OV-10 back seaters, OV-10 front seaters. They had RF-4B back and front seaters. They had straight F-4 guys. They had A6 transition guys who transitioned from the right seat to the left seat, and guys that stayed. And it was phenomenal. I mean, I didn't know it at the time. I just thought it was normal, but
Yeah,
looking
well,
back
you
on
had
it,
that was a serious amount of cats and dogs there, man.
From my perspective, what I saw from the squad, because as you guys know, each unit, each patch kind of has its own culture and its own ethos and everything.
Sure.
And so taking that squadron from a different piece of material and taking it to a new one and putting all these people in it, at the time, the squadron, its culture wasn't formulated yet. So it was a good thing we had a good group of guys that started the fighter culture at that time. And it was interesting to see it mature to the point where it is now like a true gun club. They got the songs, they got the swagger, they got the confidence, and I'm sure they're extremely competent in their mission sets.
Were they the ones next door when we toured in the spring, Fig? Were they the ones standing up the F-35s?
224.
I think it was. We toured 542 for when the air show was going on this spring, and I think it was 224 next door. And some of the guys were in 542 spaces using their equipment while they got the squadron spaces ready to go. But I don't know for sure if that was the same squadron or not. But they were getting
I think there was a 1 involved.
Yeah,
like a
maybe
number 1 somewhere.
Yeah, Moxnick said they were getting the Navy variant of the F-35 though, not the Marine variant. Which was, yeah.
Hey, P-51 Flyby 86 just set out that he saw a lot of images from that reunion that T-Rets posted.
Yeah.
Do you know who T-Rets is? That's pretty awesome.
I do. I didn't fly with T-Rets, but I know him. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So okay, go ahead, because I got questions if you don't repeat.
There you go.
No, well,
There's
let me
big
move
ones.
the banner out of the way there. There's his squadron. Sticks had the squadron banner up. No, so let's back up a little bit. You first decide you want to do the Marine Aviation thing. You get the NFO slot, and you get there. Anything stand out in your mind as particularly funny or terrifying or both during the flight school phase of your career?
The first time through flight school, that is.
Yeah.
The first time through flight school.
Yeah, when you were doing the NFO training.
Well, see, the platforms there were the Saberliner. It was pretty funny because we would have to do. I feel like I'm kind of the opposite of a nerd, but you have to truly nerd out because we were doing ground radar predictions, and we would go fly low levels off those predictions, and we were flying with these contract guys who were older retired dudes that had flown these routes down in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi for years. And
Yeah.
the common thing was when you take off with those guys, the instructor sits behind you in a jump seat.
Okay.
And what's great about it is that if you're kind of struggling up there getting your navigation right, because you're doing time distance heading at whatever 300 knots.
Are
on
you
the ground.
sitting in the right? Are you sitting in the right seat there, Sam, of the
In
T-39?
that phase of flight, yeah, you're up in the right.
Okay, so you're visually doing basically dead reckoning, time distance heading.
There it is. Yep, that's the airplane.
Yep.
Yeah, you're dead reckoning, and then I guess whenever they had you doing the radar predictions, you're sitting in the back using the radar. But the old guys sitting in the left, sometimes if you're struggling, you'd see them up there, and they'd be pointing with one of their fingers where the instructor couldn't see. And then you might look over to the left, and then you see the water tower. Oh, there's the Mobile water tower. I need to fly over that. That's my point.
Yeah. Go over there.
That's great.
And
I'm guessing that's only if he liked you, right?
only if he liked you. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And those guys, you knew what they were doing because once they took off, you'd see their hands silently move to a radio, and they were switching to ADF so they could keep Rush Limbaugh on in their left ear all the way
that's
across
a
the
hoot.
country. And the saying was, when you fly with those guys, it was gear up, flaps up, wake the Tracor guy up because he could fly the thing in his sleep.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Fantastic. Oh man. Oh, that's
What
funny.
was it? That's what One Eye was flying for a while.
Yep.
Remember, he
Yep.
was flying the T-39s down there. One Eye was a guy we interviewed. He's probably should have got the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Right.
UH-34 pilot, a Marine UH-34 pilot in 1967, 68.
I think it was
Yeah.
67 when he got hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got hit in the face, blinded. His co-pilot was incapacitated, and he literally flew the helicopter blind to get the Marines out of a hot LZ.
Wow.
And listen to his crew chief and his wingman telling him what to do, and that's how he flew it.
I think programs like that are very good mentorship because where else would you be around, a 40-year aviator retired with experience like you, and you get to see those guys at pre-flight or around the hangar or whatever, and still get to visit and integrate with them. So it's those type of programs are really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And thinking of the alt mentors and all that stuff, you mentioned a term, and it kind of went by quickly, and it's dead reckoning. If you're not a pilot, you don't understand what that is. I always thought when I first started flying, it was dead, DEAD, reckoning, and I didn't know why it was called that. And one of my mentors, his name was Eddie Dufford. I think he had 30,000 hours in a Piper Cherokee. And he'd been teaching in that damn thing since the early 50s in Louisiana. He goes, no, it's deduced, dead, DED, reckoning, deduced reckoning. You look on the ground, you deduce where you are, you reckon where you are. I went, oh, so there's the trivia behind dead reckoning, folks.
Sorry,
Jump on
man. I muted this microphone. I was laughing my ass off there. Thank you for that. No, I muted this microphone because there's some. I'm at my aunt-in-law's house here, and there's a fucking landscapers out here, and they're fucking blowing everything right outside the window. So if you're
Leaf
hearing
blowers. The
motor
bane of
in
our
the
existence as
background,
podcasters.
yeah, sorry, I've had a lot of coffee, and I'm kind of fucking wound up right now.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry about all that. I'm coming down.
Well, let's move on from flight school then. What? So you did 101, then
Yeah.
back to the East Coast. Any fun? Any special fun at 101 or back to the East Coast? Where did you finally settle into the Fleet Gun Squadron for the first time?
So that's
224.
probably, 224,
right?
probably 93-ish or something. And
Okay.
I got there right as a transition was happening, and almost immediately Marine Corps deployments to Aviano, Italy were starting.
Nice.
And so we started working up to get ready to go to Aviano. And I don't know, there were several operations that flew out of there. The one that stands out in my mind is deny flight, which we were doing. So there I'm as just a know nothing nugget over there, and we're flying around chasing MiG-21s. They would land into these airfields and taxi at high speed into mountains and
Disappear.
just disappear. And so I thought it was normal to be, a 100-hour guy in the fleet getting lit up by SA-2s and
Fun times.
and I just thought it was normal. And so like one time I was flying with a guy saw at the reunion, and he looked in the mirror, and we were doing an intercept or chasing somebody down or something, and we'd been airborne, and he looks in his mirror, and I'm back there eating an apple because I just thought this was normal. This is how you fly in the Marine Corps. You go and you chase people down, you do intercepts, I just thought it was normal.
Yeah, it's
And I
normal.
was hungry.
You're having a lunch break. He said,
Right.
"What the fuck are you doing?" Type thing. Dude,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I do have a story about, I watched it. We were capping over, I guess it was Sarajevo, and it was in the morning. And if you've seen an SA-7 plume off the ground, it's kind of an orange burst, and then it goes away. It's real fast.
Okay.
It's not that big. Saw those going on, heard some chatter in my headset, and there was an A-10 that was shucking and diving down there. I don't know how many, I can't verify. I'm sure there's some report somewhere that says it, of missiles that he dodged. But I know that he got out over the hills, made his way back to Italy. And a couple days later, I'm standing at what we call the KAOC, which is an operations center. And I'm telling the story of an A-10 guy who did a really good job of getting out of a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And across the room, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, yeah.
So across the room had all different elements in there. There were guys from the Air Force, guys from the Marine Corps, guys from Denmark's, wherever, all the joint nations were in there. And across the room, an American Air Force guy, kind of silver-haired, turns around, looks at me and says, "Hey, that was me." And so I approached him, I talked to him. And the interesting part of the story was he had flown his airline job to London or Paris or somewhere. And so he was down in Aviano flying his weekend drill in an
No.
A-10, and he was going to go back and fly his route back. So he's getting drill credit while being on a layover and getting shot at. I always thought that
No.
was pretty cool. Yeah, that's a true story.
Classic double dip in there.
Yeah. Holy shit. Earn your money for that.
Right. Oh.
How was your layover?
Yeah.
What
How's
you
your
doing on your
layover?
layover?
What'd you do
nothing.
on layover?
We get shot at.
SA
So
sevens.
So the start of my call sign kind of started in those Aviano deployments because I never wanted to just stay on the base. And initially I was just called Tolly, which is an abbreviation of my name.
Yeah.
But a guy so that's like the 93, 94 time frame. I didn't get my call sign until like 97, which is Sam. But I kept getting to go on Advanced Party. And I found it really interesting on Advanced Party to go out and meet people and talk to people and find out where the best barbershop was, the best place to eat was, meet the mayor, meet the sheriff, do all that stuff. And so those Advanced Party trips for me, because I think I was in logistics. I wasn't the embark officer, but some JO job. I got to go on those. And so that started for me. I really enjoyed doing advanced party.
Nice.
Would you kind of define what advanced party is for our non-military deployer people?
Sure.
What's that about?
So you've got a unit, and that unit is going to go somewhere, and it can't just all of a sudden show up with 12 to 20 airplanes and 200 to 300 people without support. So a unit will typically send somebody from kind of each of their departments, their administration, their logistics, heavy on logistics, because you need to arrange billeting, you need to arrange food, you need to fuel, all that stuff. So usually in the past it was 2 weeks. With today's communication, it might be better. I'm not sure, but you'd send 5 to 10 guys, and they'd go out, they'd set everything up. So when the unit lands, here's your hotel keys, here's where to go eat. Don't cross that road. And these are the bad people. Avoid these people. Pickpockets are on this street. Get a haircut over here. Stuff like that.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
I got nothing.
Okay.
I thought you sounded like you had another question in there, so I stepped back.
No. Did you do Westpac as an NFO in that
I did
squadron
not.
or no?
I did not.
And did you do a boat tour?
I did, but so here, this is for your listeners as well. So if the opportunities are presented or not presented and you're in the military, sometimes they come quickly, sometimes they vanish quickly. So I mentioned that I did the NFO track because my hopes were, because at the time there was the transition program. So this was 90, 91, 92. Well, somewhere between that time and me hitting the fleet there in 93, a retread, so it was a previous F-14 Rio, had been transitioned, and he was flying in the front seat of an F-14, and a tragic accident. He went into some apartment buildings, and the causal factors of the mishap had something to do with his cavalier attitude from being a previous backseater that translated to the front seat. So the Navy and the Marine Corps stopped their transition program. So now I don't have an opportunity or a track to get where I wanted to go. So I had to make other decisions on what I wanted to do after I got done with that initial fleet tour. And that led me to what I chose for my second tour.
Okay. That incident you're talking about, was that in there it is. Was that in Memphis? Departing out of Memphis? Is that the one? Is that the one?
It could have been, but I recall Nashville. But
Nashville. Okay, I knew it was Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty horrible.
So they stopped the program, and that meant my so at that time as well, there was also something called an unaugmented officer. I was a member of the reserve serving on active duty. So if you didn't pick up an augmentation, you weren't going to continue on track. You're going to be released to the reserve.
Yeah, because
that's it, flat hatting.
Family watched the mishap.
As a Marine Corps officer that was commissioned through the OCS or PLC program, you have a reserve commission. You serve on active duty until your commitment is up. And then if you haven't augmented to the regular Marine Corps, in other words, had the R taken off of the USMC R, then you would transition to the reserves. Was that that first statement? So is that so after your first tour in VMFA W224, what did you do?
There was a unique opportunity that presented itself, and that was because of the performance of the Marine Corps in the night flight in the Bosnia operations. They were really impressed with the F-18D. And so the Royal Malaysian Air Force bought F-18Ds, and they wanted Marine Corps to be integral in their initial training. So the program was 3 active duty Marines and 3 Boeing contract pilots to give them, I forget what category of the FRS it was, but it was like a Cat 4A, because they were going to transition from their Air Force, different communities, F5s, whatever else they had. They had MiG-29s and other things like that. They were going to transition those guys into the F-18. And so me and 2 other Marine active duty guys, active duty at the time guys, teamed up with 3 Boeing contractors, a bunch of Boeing maintenance guys, and we went over there to Butterworth Air Force Base near the island of Penang and gave them a syllabus. And it was a fantastic tour. Great people to work with. To me, it's the best food in the world because you got a collision of Thai, Chinese, Malay, Indo, everything. It's phenomenal food.
And that was how long? How long did that last? How long did you do that?
My recollection is like 96 through 97. The program was delayed a little bit. They took us.
Was that considered a non PCS? So you yes or no? Did you take your wife?
It was a non PCS, so I did take my wife on my own dime.
Okay.
And part of the reason I got my call sign was the debt OIC sent me over there as an advanced party. So in that case, when you're out there on the fringes alone, usually the embassies will support you. And so the embassy at Kuala Lumpur was my support. Well, you didn't have any, I needed to arrange billeting for us guys that were going to be over there. And so Kuala Lumpur is a very modern, very expensive city, but we were living up in the country. So we got to take our housing allowance rates for Kuala Lumpur and apply them to
Penang. You're living like
Penang.
kings up in Penang. Yeah.
You guys were living like the Sultan of right.
So,
The Sultan of Penang.
so my boss and I, when I showed him his pad, which sometimes shows up in movies,
No.
he deemed me special agent man. So that's where I got one of my calls.
Sam,
or my call
special
yeah.
agent
There
man.
you go.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
He really liked his living accommodation.
That's outstanding. Here's just a quick one on Penang. I was there on a layover one time, first time ever, and it was something outrageous, like $35 for a 1-hour massage. And at the end of the massage, it felt so good. I'm like, I'm gonna throw another $35 at it. Give me another hour. Like, yeah, go again. I could barely move the next day. If you've never had a 2-hour massage, I recommend you don't do it. You break loose all the acid in your muscles. I could hardly move. That was a stupid move on my part. But
that picture is Kuala Lumpur,
yep.
which is a fantastic city to visit. I recommend it. But up in Penang, the geography is there's an island to the west, the peninsula of Malaysia, and then the Australian Air Force Base is on the mainland. So it's only a mile across the water to get there. Well, the 3 Marines, we had visited and we knew the ferry was jammed in the morning, or we could drive down and cross the bridge to go get to work. Well, all 3 of us paid. We somehow managed the JFTRs, and it was legal. We brought jet skis over there, to jet ski from the island to work over there.
Nice.
Now, that was our plan. We had the jet skis over there to go to work, to teach the Malaysians how to fly the F-18. But what we got messed up with was their advanced party screwed up, which was me, because there was no boat docks and the tides were bad. So.
Oh shit! So when you needed to leave, there wasn't any water.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
it didn't work out.
It was a good plan, though. I really like that. For a second there, I thought, I had envisioned you guys, high-fiving each other, getting on the jet skis, going to work,
No.
All right.
No.
All right. So, okay. Wah, wah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Dang.
So you can see that's a more modern picture, but we were up on the north side of that picture in those high rises.
With the terrain in the background there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's called Georgetown. That's the downtown area, and best food in the world, in my opinion.
That's awesome. Should we use this opportunity to take a quick break and do the run?
We should so do. Let's thank, because FTI Ratings has come back. Welcome back, FTI Ratings. Thrilled to have you as a show sponsor. For those transitioning from military flying to the cockpit of a commercial airliner, or for civilian pilots ready to step up, FTIratings.com is your premier destination. They specialize in getting you through the crucial type rating and the ATP or ATP CTP certifications that are required gateways to flying with the major airlines. Navigating through the requirements for advanced certifications can be complex, but FTIratings.com makes it straightforward. They offer expert guidance and instruction tailored to help seasoned pilots like you achieve your goals in the aviation industry. Every FTI instructor is a veteran who has been through this very process and knows exactly what to teach you to get you ready for your ATP rating or type certificate. And if you're looking to maximize your benefits, FTIratings.com is an excellent choice for using your VA benefits. Plus, just for our listeners, when you mention "So There I Was" during your registration, you'll get $100 off your first course. It's a great way to kickstart your advanced training and save some money as you prepare for the next big leap in your flying career. And don't forget, no matter where you are, you can prepare using their iPad-based study materials at a time and a location that's convenient for you. So, whether you're aiming for that Boeing or Airbus cockpit or gearing up to earn your ATP, FTIratings.com is your co-pilot in professional aviation training. With their specialized courses and expert instructors, you're not just learning, you're getting ready to take command of an airliner. Thanks for joining me on this flight path to success, and remember, with FTIratings.com, clear skies aren't as far away as they seem. Indeed. Thank you, FTI Ratings, for coming back. They've been a loyal sponsor of the show, and we are deeply appreciative. And if you're looking to make the transition, they are definitely the way to go. So you aren't sitting in a ancient Apache smelling like avgas and socks. Hating life.
No.
So, how'd you make that transition, Sam? How'd you get your ATP?
Oh, okay.
Did you do
well,
that Apache thing and 3-day cram course? And
No, I didn't.
I know how he did it.
I got pretty lucky. So after all that NFO stuff, the transition program opened again, and I'd been also fortunate to work for good people, and so they put in good paperwork on me, and I had a couple of challenging billets. So when that program opened again, I tell you, the knives are out, and I just happened to be the first F-18 Wizzo get selected for pilot training. So I came off the Malaysia program and went back to Pensacola area to start primary, and I got jets out of there, and I went down to Kingsville and finished training down there. And then I got F-18s. And so then I went back to the fleet as a pilot. And so if you want me to get finished all the way through to my ATP, I can. Or
No,
we'll come back to that
let's
later.
Back up.
So
you know,
did you run into Fig down in Kingsville?
No, I was gone. By the
you were
time
gone by then?
he got,
Okay.
yeah, because you got there. When did you get there, Sam?
probably
in
98,
Kingsville.
99.
Oh
98,
yeah,
99.
I was already at our current employer. Let me ask you this. So, what was that like to go through flight school now? As you're probably a mid year captain, right? Have been out in the fleet. And now you're back as a student, probably flying with guys that are junior to you. What's that like in flight school?
I think it was I can tell you the hard facts. The facts are I got accelerated through the primary program. And
Right.
the interesting thing about that acceleration is that it didn't have anything to do with my NFO time. It had to do with that I'd gotten It had to do that I'd gotten my private, my instrument, my commercial, my CFI MEI, and that's what I was accelerated through primary with.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I missed something
Yeah.
there. When did you do the rest of those ratings? Because I don't remember that being part of the program.
Well, I did that on nights and weekends. I remember I got my instrument out when I was doing. I was being trained to be an instructor from the backseat in an F-18 to go to the Malaysia program. So I had the program got delayed because McDonnell Douglas or Boeing at the time had a strike. So the blue collar guys left and the white collars were assembling the airplanes or something to that effect. I don't know the facts of it. I'm sure you got guys that can check on that. So during that delay, I looked up a flight school and I hopped over there and I did my check-ins and everything. And then I went over and finished my instrument, my commercial. And I don't really remember. I think I got my MEI up at Van Nuys, that's in the basin, I guess, almost up to the mountains. That was an interesting story and an interesting check ride. That's why I got accelerated through primary. But what I found in the training program was, I had a bit of an advantage for aviate, navigate, communicate in primary flight school.
Sure.
But by the time you get to intermediate and advanced jet, those young studs, the learning curves merge.
Yeah.
And even with my experience of being upside down and talking and all that stuff, those guys, they'll kick your ass if you don't work hard to beat them.
Yeah. They catch you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to verbalize the fact that what you just kind of flippantly mentioned is not something that's that was monumental. The fact that
people don't just wander in and just get their commercial instrument.
No, and your instrument
CFI.
rating and your CFI and your MEI in your spare time. I mean, you're a full-time Marine Corps officer doing Marine Corps officer stuff, and then you, of course, you have, I don't know, how many ground jobs did you have when you were just
Right.
a squadron NFO? I mean, you were, I don't know, you probably had 3 collateral duties in I mean, what, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
this is you say it so lightly, but it's not. This is significant. So this is a trend. I'm noticing a trend with you. People
spend 4 hours a day watching TV and goofing off. I mean, I get sucked into Twitter every half an hour for 5 minutes, and there's time. It's there.
Put your mind to it, I guess. Okay. All right.
All right. So you
quit screwing up.
Yeah. So once again, we're talking to another underachiever, repeat, and it's very blatant underachiever.
Right.
So by the time you get to flight school, they basically clip you out of a bunch of flying, I guess, right, because of all your ratings. But that didn't hurt because you still got jets. So was there ever a time when you went through? It was just T-45s. The A4s were gone. T2s and A4s were gone. So when you came back through as a student pilot in naval aviator in training, did you ever have your hand on the ejection seat handle or think I might have to jump out of this thing?
In training?
Training, yeah.
No. And let me brag on the maintenance down in the training command initially. So some of your fact checkers out there can check this. So after I retired from the Marine Corps in 2012, I was flying for a couple of defense contractors, and one of them purchased the Goshawk from South Korea. So it's a militarized T-45, and they were going to bring it back to the United States and operate it. Well, I'd been with that company a little bit, and their maintenance practices were adequate and good, but not as robust as what the guys down taking care of the Goshawk is. And after they operated that airplane without the fantastic maintenance that they have in the Navy Training Command, there were 2 mishaps pretty fast.
Ooh.
So what my roundabout point is, those airplanes that I got to fly in training, I thought they were, now obviously it's a completely different product than the Boeing remodeled Douglas F-18, which everything just works. But I wasn't worried during training. I thought the instruction was great. The procedures are great. The material's great. The instructors are great. So I wasn't worried.
Okay.
I can say from personal experience when we had a couple of retreads. Retread. I'm referring to basically what you did, NFO back through pilot training. Come through Kingsville when I was down there, and Grinch was one of them. I recall.
Right.
You I think you knew who Grinch was.
Yep.
Some of the Navy instructors, there was maybe a personality conflict at some point, and so these particular Marines got a kind of a bad. The Navy guys kind of had it in for them. Let's just put it out. Yeah, Marine instructors kind of had to have some influence over who they flew with to make sure that there wasn't any shenaniganery going on.
That's too bad.
You know,
I mean, I'm glad they did, but that's too bad. You hate to hear that shit.
Did you see any of that when you were there, Sam?
No, I didn't. What the late 90s, a lot of the airlines were sucking out a lot of the pilots, so the instructor cadre was getting kind of stretched thin. So they were bringing guys who had never flown in the tactical community in to be instructors.
Oh boy!
And so I saw some chicanery, kind of that in the like the tactical world you wouldn't be doing. But actually, there was one mishap. One of you guys can look at it. Fellow crashed a T-45 out at is either Point Magoo or somewhere else out like that because he's pushing himself a little bit too hard. So that was a death and an aircraft loss.
Okay. Not optimum
No.
at all,
Not
right?
ideal. Hate hearing
Okay,
that.
so you got naval aviator wings in 98?
It was late 98 or early 99. Yeah, something like that.
Awesome. And then you went back, you went to a F-18D squadron?
Nope. I went to the FRS, so it's like my fourth or fifth time at VMFAT 101. I might be a winner of that.
Right.
Were they still at El Toro, or had they moved to Miramar when you
They
went
moved to
there?
Miramar. And so I do
Okay.
remember this on the family side. My middle boy was being born on a Monday morning. So he was born and probably not the best ORM, but I was scheduled for my first solo in the F-18 there in San Diego. So he was born at like 4 or 5, and I was briefing at 8 o'clock to go fly solo in the F-18. And I was not going to miss that for the world.
Well, why
he's
would you?
You can see your kid anytime.
Yeah, he's the one I'm paying for his instruments right now.
Right. There you go.
I went back and did that at San Diego, and then we moved back to Beaufort, and I got super lucky. Had some, I don't know if I had advocates or what, but they challenged me and sent me to VMFA 251, which was a mature, very top-notch East Coast gun squadron, the T-Bolts. Great legacy, great people, always has very good leadership. And immediately when I got there, so I never had a pink slip anywhere. And so my initial qualification at the boat out of San Diego, they were tracking me. I was doing fine in field carrier landing practice, but I disqualified the first time I went out to the boat in the F-18.
Okay.
So naturally, after I qual and I get sent to the fleet, what do they send me to? Boat squadron.
A boat.
Boat,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course.
The boat,
yeah,
man.
why wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I got to join 251. I got to do a full workup and everything, and we were scheduled to cruise on, I think it was September 15th or 17th, 2001. So obviously everybody knows 9/11.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so you can either say my timing was great or it was horrible. But that cruise of the T-bolts, we went to sea, and it was the longest sea deployment without touching a port since World War II. So we were at sea for I think 5.5 months. We got a 6-pack cruise. So we got 2 beers every 45 days.
Wow. Longest
That
sea
hurts.
deployment since World War II.
Yeah.
That
And
hurts
sea,
thinking
no,
about.
no port calls. No port calls.
No, we pushed off. We went straight through the Med, went through the Suez, got on station in the Indian Ocean. And I think we were like the 3rd carrier, 4th carrier there. So the initial guys, they extended and stayed for the beginning of Operation Enduring Freedom. I don't know the exact date we started flying those missions, but we flew those missions nonstop. The way they do it is the junior carriers, the night carrier. So we started off on nights, and then we switched to days when we became the senior carrier, but stayed out there and kept flying forever. So God bless those guys out there on those ships for a long time, never getting off.
Yeah.
The pilots, we got to launch off every day, every other day, and at least see land or something.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was shit. How many?
Way too long.
Yeah. So okay, I'm trying to think of the timeline here. So were you dropping bombs in Afghanistan?
Yes.
So you got any memorable missions that you can recall?
I have lots of stories. You can pick them out of my brain. I was really impressed with quite a few things. I loved how there's a big disparity to me in the tanker world. There's the guys like in your intro that they just put the autopilot on and bat turn. And then there's the guys that can lead turn you straight to a strike. So you can join up on them. You get exactly the fuel you need, peel off of them, do your strike, and they'll be waiting on you where you come off. So we used to have those guys. We'd be working targets down beneath. We'd shoot one dude up, get his gas, and he's still working high cover, looking down through all that, get his gas, peel off, and just work it like that. It was some very interesting things going on.
Talking about that very thing last week, the combat tankers. Those
Yeah.
guys out there.
Were those long missions? Like you'd launch off the ship, you'd go hit tanker, you'd wait for tasking. Walk us through a typical mission.
Okay, well,
Timeline.
to answer the first question first, I think my logbook will support an 11.5-hour sortie and then a night landing. I think.
Wow. I thought I heard you say 11 and a half hours and then a night landing on the carrier.
Yes. I'll have
See,
to look
I
it
get
up
to
and
do
verify.
those length of sorties with a relief crew now, but no relief crew in a Hornet.
So there was a mix of missions. There were some with predetermined targets, but most of them were kind of like a SCAR mission, which is, I forget exactly what it means, but you're out there hunting for targets and either bringing people in or working the targets yourself. I do remember one time I got launched off, and it's early morning, and I'm way up north in the country. So it's south of Mozar-e Sharif, and it's a big valley. And here I am, the Superman F-18 pilot coming off the boat. I'm double ugly. I've got a bomb. I've got some other stuff. And out of Diego Garcia, there was a B-1 working the target. And the FAC told me, hey, how's your fuel status? I said, I got time. Work him first. And so I watched this B-1 come in, and I don't know what type of unit they were after, but the whole valley just kind of disappears. And then I look at what now I consider a grenade on my wing. I'm like, well,
A grenade.
I'll get the kickers and spitters that run out.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
A grenade on my wing. Holy smokes. And I was thinking I'm double ugly is a good show title. And now maybe a grenade on my wing, but a 500-pound grenade. Holy
Yeah, but
smokes.
So, you get flight pay. And so for a long time, I got flight pay, and I thought, well, that's pretty nice. But then you start doing those kind of missions, coming back to the boat, and let me give you an example of a tanker thing that was pretty scary. Our unit had lost a two ship, and so it wasn't when I was there. It was prior to when I got there. So the procedures for us was we did not use night vision goggles when we got on the tanker.
Okay.
The last portion of the rendezvous.
Okay.
So at the very first of it, I'm a wingman, and so I'm following my lead to the tanker, and it was complete chaos in the airspace. So nobody knew where people were or whatever. And we join
That's
up.
scary all by itself.
Yeah, we join up, and we need gas to get back to the boat. And some guys, everybody's kind of, what do we call it when your lights out? Just lights out, Zippo or something. So you can kind of see the glow from the cockpits that are around the tanker. You can see the tanker. Yeah. So I'm joined up, and I don't know where I am in line, but I feel my airplane getting shook around. I'm like, I don't know where everybody is here. So I put my goggles back down. There were freaking airplanes everywhere. I don't know how many there were. I know there was at least between me and my guy that I was looking at. I don't know how many were over here or were on the other side, but there had to be at least 8 to 10 airplanes in the dark trying to get
terrifying.
I have,
of course, nobody was wearing nogs because of the procedures then, right? It says, hey, do you take your nogs off? Holy
at the time,
shit.
I don't think it was systemic throughout the Marine Corps or the Navy. It was just this unit. We flipped our goggles off the last portion of the rendezvous.
All right.
I have another funny tanker story. I'll tell.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. Yeah, do it. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez.
So I'm launching off the boat in this thing. My wingman, who I think he is still active duty, he goes down for maintenance. So they're gonna shoot him on the next launch. So I'm airborne, and my signal is to go get gas and wait on him. So it's dark. I've never tanked on the assigned tanker. It's some British tanker, I think. And so I'm by myself. I follow the rules. I join up on the tanker, and I flip my goggles up for the last portion of the rendezvous. Well, I get lined up right on center line, and I'm fishing around. I'm talking to the guys, and finally I get tired of it, and I said, "Hey, can you guys extend the drogue?" And the dude comes back and he says, "Look to your right, mate." And I look to my right, and the basket is hanging out right by my head. It's a British VC-21 or something. I didn't know they were wing drogues. I thought they were on the center line.
Oh shit. Look to your right, mate.
That thing is right here.
Well, see, you were concentrating on a specific spot.
I was complying. Yeah. I mean, most of the other tankers, I don't know how many.
Right.
And that's a small airplane. I didn't think they would have wing pods.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't take it down the intake.
Right.
Hey, so let's back up just a second. You made a mention to flight pay. And I think I knew where you were going to go with that.
Yeah.
But, flight pay back then was...
Like how you earn it?
I don't know. It was an extra $250 or $70 a month or something like that, right? It was not significant. So were you alluding to the fact that I'm doing all this for an extra $300 a month type thing?
No, I guess what I'm saying is when you're in the training command or you're flying lights on and day VFR, and then you're out coming off a boat, airplanes are going all over the place. It's chaos. The radios have quick screaming babies on the back radio. I mean, not from us, from people trying to jam your radio.
Right. Right.
And just the accumulated fatigue and all those things. That's when you start to earn your flight pay.
Right. For real. You got it.
Not coming into the break at Friday afternoon and being at the debriefing at the club. That's fun.
No. Right.
Suck your life.
No, that's the good times.
Yeah.
Sticks put up a brevity code for lights. His light bulb.
It's like your light bulb, huh?
I think
I just remember midnight.
Midnight.
Yeah,
midnight.
I would go midnight.
Midnight. Go midnight.
Exactly.
That meant lights out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, did you guys have formation lights on or no? Like the little green
green strips.
You could barely see them with the naked eye. If you had your nogs on, they were probably pretty bright.
Yeah, we would use those, especially if we were on NVGs.
Roger that.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, so the longest cruise since World War II, combat missions, 11 hours,
11 hours
coming
of
back,
combat
landing
missions,
on the
right?
ship at night. Holy shit balls. Okay, so that was your first fleet gun squadron tour as a front seater, as a aviator, right?
Right.
Then what did you do after? Did you stay? Were you in 251 for a long time?
I appreciate the guys who left me in the squadron. Here's my career problem, and this might affect some of your listeners, may not. But because all the guys were getting sucked out of the airlines, my year group as a captain was early promoted to major. So normally I think people will know better than I, but usually it was like 12 years to major. My year group of guys, I think it was 8 3/4. So the challenge, like in my case, I don't know if it'll happen to somebody else, was you go back to the fleet as a non-credible in your MOS because you don't have any qualifications, and you're a major, which means you're expected to be a department head, be a leader. So I was trying to get qualifications and function as a department head. So the leadership I had there was good in that they, kind of kept me within boundaries, gave me some opportunity to get some qualifications, and then gave me good guidance in doing my ground job. So I was fortunate in that case.
That's a lot.
Right.
I mean,
Well, that's what I was telling
really
them during our pre-show chat that, that's pretty much the reason I got out, because they were trying to send me to the Pentagon, and I had already had a 3-year ground tour. I was going to do another one. I thought, there's no way I'll have any MOS credibility. I won't be able to be screened for command or anything like that. So that's when I made the decision to go ahead and cut out of there. But sounds like you did it successfully and had good, like you said, good leadership to help you continue on in your career. So congrats to that. Yeah.
Well, we did.
I don't know.
That squadron. I call it a trifecta tour because we did the cruise. We came back and then we went to Al Jaber for IEF 1. So we're flying out of there, and then we came back after that deployment, and we went on a Westpac. So I did get a Westpac towards the end of my career.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot in that. Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, Al Jaber. Yeah. That's a beautiful place.
A garden spot.
If
you're growing cacti.
Does anything stick out in your, in your memory from OEF flying?
OEF?
Yeah.
Or OIF?
OIF, I'm sorry.
Oh, OIF. Yeah. That's
Operation Iraqi Freedom for those that love the acronyms that we throw out, because we throw out a lot.
You do.
We got the squadron got there before the kickoff of the campaign, and so at Al Jaber we had an air wing, and so a lot of airplanes, a lot of ordnance, a lot of people, and I got assigned to do mission planning for the initial part of it. I wasn't a weapons school guy because you guys can tell by my career path, I didn't really have an opportunity to go at that time. And there were a lot smarter dudes that they were sending, which was the right call. But that was the Operation Safwan Hill, which was the initial push. I just remember that because I found that it's kind of intimidating when you get assigned something that is a really complex problem, and you kind of wishing that you'd read one more chapter of the weapons manual or whatever.
Right.
But I end up as an aviator up on the border in this tent, and these recon Marines are in there, and now I am completely out of my element. And these dudes come out from the desert, and they've got a whole what do you call it, tabletop exercise set up in this tent. And these dudes
Okay,
come in
right.
and they're taking off their gear for like 5 minutes, getting ready to have this meeting. I mean, flak jackets and war belts and guns and all this stuff. And I was pretty impressed. But the reason I bring up that story is we crafted this great plan. And at some point, maybe somebody has the full story and they can break it down. But we had a plan. We were all set to execute that plan on the initial push. And for some reason, it went early. The push went early, and the plan changed. So my squadron had all the ordnance loaded. We had the people ready to go, and we're started up. And I see the general walking down the hill. And usually, when a general's walking down the hill while you're starting an airplane, nothing good happens. And so we got our plan completely changed, and so all that work, it got modified, and it was still ended up being successful. But it was those, when you have political things going on, you're just at the tail end of the whip, and you're going to get whipped around, and you just got to keep rolling with the punches. But we flew out of there for 3 or 4 months, and it was really good. Almost all the different types of mission sets we ended up doing. We didn't lose an airplane. The A-10s were coming back pretty shot up. And what I found really interesting, the big thing for me in that exercise was the country was divided by two. And so the left side was the Army and the Air Force, and the right side was the Marine Corps. And so guys would go to the left side, and they'd finish their time on station, and they'd still have ordnance on. Well, those guys would try to fight to come over to the Marine Corps side, because by experience, what they were finding was the Marine Air Ground Task Force was optimized to take some asset and use it right now. So those guys would shift over, get their ordnance off, and then get back and get the airplanes recycled.
So that brings up a good. That's a good segue. Repeat and I were talking about this the other day. We had a couple guests on, and from their experience, this is what it seems. I want to hear your take on this. So it seems like the Army uses the Air Force air power as a backup plan. It's, I've heard the term, hey, if we get in a pinch, well, we got a JTAC with us. We'll call in air support. Whereas, the Marine Corps, it's integrated in our plan to start with.
Yeah.
One
more weapon in our belt.
Right. I mean, it's an integrated air ground task force. We plan on using air power, not as a backup plan if we run into a overwhelming force that we. Right. I mean,
yeah.
Shoot holes in that.
Well, the Marine Corps is really reticent to give up its role as its air tasker, but I know for political reasons they have to do it. So I actually went to Air Command and Staff Residence course, which is an Air Force school. So I got to learn a lot of their doctrine and ideas. I went to that school after I experienced OIF, but I could understand why the Marine Corps is reticent to give up its assets to support the ground troops. And it might go all the way back to Guadalcanal when the Navy got threatened and had to leave the gunfire for the Marines ashore. That could be it. But the Marine Corps does a really good job of integrating all its forces. And as everyone watching knows, if you don't exercise every day, your stuff starts falling apart. The apps on your phone go out of date. You can't talk to this person. You can't do that. And so if the Army and the Air Force aren't exercising every day, their radios aren't going to work. Their procedures, they're not going to speak a common language. And that common language for the Marine Corps starts all the way back at the basic school, where every single MOS has to go through some kind of exercise together for a period of time. So you speak a common language, and that translates all the way throughout Marine Corps ethos and culture.
That was an excellent definition.
That boils it down, yeah, in a few sentences, what the Marine Corps is and does and why it's important. So,
well, so you I know you did you went to in residence, and I know you got some big degrees, and I don't want to, listen, he's a typical, slacker,
Underachiever, slacker.
underachiever. You finished your Marine Corps career. Were you in another gun squadron after command and staff, or did you do some other stuff?
After command and staff, I kind of saw the writing on the wall for me, which was no DC tour and no weapons school. So I wanted to give my family some life experiences. So I took the whole family over to Japan and served in MAG 12 at the staff. And that was a great tour. Fantastic tour. Got to work exercises in Thailand, Korea, Japan, all over the place. And that was a very good tour. And I don't know if they had pity on me or it was just a great deal. But after that tour, I got to come back and work for one of the great Americans, in my opinion, at MCS Miramar on the staff. And that's where I started getting back into transport aviation, because working on the station staff, I got to fly what we call the UC-35, what the civilian world calls a Citation Encore 550. And I even got to deploy in that thing because I went back to Qatar and flew that thing still in all in that Middle East airspace.
We affectionately called that the Barbie jet.
The Barbie jet.
So you were like the Ken doll flying the Barbie jet. That was fancy. It was a nice airplane. Nice paint job.
Well,
Right.
in Qatar, there might be some Marines there might be some Marines watching, but if we weren't tasked in Qatar to use that citation to go do VIP support, we would do a run to Bagram or one of the other bases in Afghanistan or wherever and pick up some Marines that needed to get back. Well, weight and balance, I told you math is not my strong point. So the problem with that is you get to go across the airspace, you got to go way up in the 30s. That airplane, we'd be, trucking through the air like this. And I would just ask the Marines to bring all their gear forward and the airplane would plane over. And then we'd get going, get them back home.
That's awesome. All right. And so you finished your Marine Corps career there at Miramar on the station staff, and then you stuck around that area, and that kind of segues into how you got all your ATP and all that stuff, right?
Well, I was lucky on the station staff. There was still a program while you were flying that airplane to stick around at FSI for a couple days and get your ATP when you're going through. I don't think it was your initial. It might have been one of the requals or something like that. So I was able to get my ATP and the Citation Encore before I left active duty.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, that's
Right.
hot.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Let the government really pay for it. Everything involved.
That was very fortunate. I know that program comes and goes with different justification, but I don't know where it's at right now. So I did that. Well, there when I was finishing, there was a civilian business at Montgomery Airfield, and the guy flew Varga 21s, which is a tandem seat, single prop. I think it competed for the T-34 mentor contract for primary flight school at one point, but it was deemed too easy to fly. It wasn't complex enough. So I was flying those for a guy who was doing dogfights. So he had a couple of near retired or retired naval aviators flying civilians in dogfights out there in San Diego. That was fun. And then the ATP that I was able to get helped me get into some defense contract flying, which I mentioned. Flew that out of North Island for several years, which was some challenging flying in a Lear 30 series, specially configured. I don't know what the state of that contract is, but if a civilian guy wants to get some experience with the military, and the military didn't work out, so there are some opportunities out there like that.
Awesome. And I think you and I had previously talked. There was somebody that you worked with that was a civilian guy. Was he the only civilian guy all civilian guy that was working for the contractor that you were flying for there?
No, he wasn't. The bulk of the guys at the time were retired military aviators. But
Yeah, one of them. I think you said he was an old Aviate guy too, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of those guys.
If you said
I
his
think you
name,
knew
I'm
him.
drawing a blank on
Oh,
his call.
can I say his name?
Yeah, say it.
Jim Barksdale, goes by Barjay. Fantastic aviator, longtime Marine Corps aviator.
I met him at our anniversary we had back in 20.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He was staying in the same hotel
but-
we were.
But there are opportunities for civilians in some of that defense contract flying, and it is challenging.
All right. Well, I know what I'd like to do is I want to circle
That's
back
it.
to
There it
We're-
is. Look at that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So Sticks has the picture of it up. I'd like to circle back to the opening story. You find yourself on the tanker. You've punched everything off. You're trying to get back to the boat. How did that start and wind up?
What you said that you guys had lost. You guys had a bunch of
Couldn't transfer fuel and punched off
Tank.
stores as a result.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Let's reattack that.
okay. So you couldn't bring. It was either the center line or the wing tank back with fuel in it in the F-18 aboard the ship.
Okay.
It might have been the center line. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
so because it was it wasn't a big problem the first 4 or 5 we deliberately punched off because it still had fuel in it, but it was starting to become an issue. What the issue was the transfer valve in the fuel tank was not OEM. Somebody else was making it, so it was sticking, and guys were doing everything they could and couldn't get the thing to unstick, so you got to punch it off. Well, the ship's only so big, you can only store so many tanks. We want to keep flying. We don't want to keep. We don't want to keep punching tanks off into the Indian Ocean.
Right.
So I was the maintenance officer at the time, and so I wanted to figure this problem out. So join on the tanker. I'm not transferring my fuel from the external tank into the airplane. So I just dropped back on the tanker, and I hate to say this because it sounds like a movie, but I went inverted and then I pushed -G, and that unstuck the valve and got the transfer so you could empty the fuel out of the tank and keep the tank and land on the ship.
Okay.
You needed
story-
a lot of -G instead of just kind of jostling around. You needed to get it inverted and then put some serious -G on it.
Yeah, for some reason that worked. I don't know why.
So was that a new SOP at that point? Hey,
No, that's been,
if you're not
that's been
transferring.
20.
Oh shit!
How do we say that? This is a technique only.
Yeah.
Right. And there you go. Texedra. So, yeah. If you're lucky, you won't end up like Yogi, who was doing exactly that. They were porpoising the A6 when he wound up getting halfway ejected out of the airplane.
Oh,
That's right.
he was an
That's
instructor. He was an instructor at Pensacola when I was down there the first time.
Oh, is that
No
right?
kidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yogi
I got to
or
sit- Well,
Yogi was?
well,
the
I don't
BN?
know. The BN.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yogi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was, yeah.
'Cause that was inverted.
Yeah. So, that's what they were doing, porpoising the jet when he got ridden up the rails halfway and put out into the airstream and ruined his 26th birthday.
That audio, the LSO talking him back aboard the ship and driving the
Yep.
ship through the captain.
Yep.
It gives me chills every time I listen to that. Fantastic. What
Right.
what a job that guy did.
We have
had
that
him.
audio in the show. I think it was show 14. And then we have that LSO is a guy by the name of Nasty, who's a retired 2-star. He's written a couple books. We've had him
Mike
on the show
Manzar.
as well.
Yeah.
Mike,
Mike Manzar.
Wow.
He's awesome. He is awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, so we had all the players on at one point. We had the pilot, the BN, and then
Had them
we
on
had
together.
the LSO on. that you could hear on the recording. It's actually a crazy story.
It is off the charts. So well, I'm glad you weren't partially ejected. Glad you're here to tell the story.
Yeah.
So, well, based on that, we've been going for quite a bit here. I think it's getting time that we say our thank yous. And first of all, Sam, thank you for your service. We are deeply grateful.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
A lot of it, actually.
Yeah. Same to you guys. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for your time. And a couple other thank yous. We need to thank Dave Hamilton over at Backbeat Media and backbeatmedia.com for handling show advertising. And Dave's got a couple other shows, the Mac Geek Gab, the Gig Gab for musicians, and the Business Brain for entrepreneurs. So go give Dave's shows a listen if podcasts are your thing. And we are assuming they are because you're here listening to us. And if we mentioned something that we confused you with and didn't go back on it, so there I was.us/glossary. There's another slash if you want to make the best of bikini season. Where would you go, Fig?
Well, that's so there I was.us/merch. And there it is. We have, well, bikini, shot glasses, beer,
Beach towels, coffee mugs, beer mugs.
Yeah. If you don't,
got it all.
it's not made, we,
find
if
something
it's
for
made,
the show.
it's probably there. Yeah.
There you go. And if it's not, tell us you want it. Reach out to us at fig@sotherewas.us or repeat@sotherewas.us and tell us you want it. If you got a difficult question, write to sticks@sotherewas.us so you can get a decent answer. And let's see what else. Yeah, right. We need Badass is watching. He's made a couple comments today. So bdsaviationphotography.com. Thank you, Badass, for all your contributions to the show. If you're watching the stream, you see a photo behind me. That's one of his photos. So thank you very much for that. Thank you to all the Patreon patrons who throw money at us every week to keep this show coming to you. We're deeply grateful for your generosity. So trying to think, anyone else we should be considering?
Well, that sound is from the 2 Air Force F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound good. The Dos Gringos.
Count them both, Dos Gringos. It sticks at it up there briefly. Thank you to our sponsor this week, FTIratings.com. Those guys have been steady show sponsors, and we're grateful. If you need a transition, go talk to them. Do it the easy way through FTIratings.com. I don't know that it's easy, but the efficient way. Nothing's easy at this level. So, oh yeah, Fig, what Sticks got up there now?
Well, give us a 5-star rating. Because if you can't, tell us why, and we'll fix it. Because we're trainable.
Right? So there I was.us/rate. We appreciate those good ratings. So in the meantime, what do you think? Until next week, Fig? Stay safe, man.
Don't sit on the ejection seat handle.
Don't do it.
There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
He said something about it being...
He said it's over.
Oh boy, is this great!
It is. And we are out.
Great.
All right. Hit some quick post-show banner, end the stream, get an extra story in here, and be out. So thank you very much. That was cool.
You're awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you,
Off the
Badass.
cuff, Badass. Sticks. What the hell?
Boom, right? All right. Well, I hate to do this, everybody that's watching. We had a bunch watching throughout the show. Grateful for that. Oh, there you go.
That's a good picture.
That is a great picture. I'm trying to kill that banner, and I can't seem to do it. There we go. All right. Yeah. Boom. Yeah. All right. time to close the show. Going to end the stream. Stay with us for just a second if you would, Sam. Take care.